Alright, check it out, YouTube. So tonight I want to share with you my clone of the Colt 609 Commando XM177E1 Car 15, a firearm with a lot of different names. This particular clone is a tax-paid short-barreled rifle. I'm going to go through some features of the 609, and so bear with me here a little bit. The original 609 would have a two-position collapsible stock, and it would be an aluminum stock. It would not yet have the black vinyl acetate coating, but it would have the two positions. This stock essentially was patented by Colt's Robert Roy. As you can see, they would have the old spanner ring to tighten down that buffer tube there. They wouldn't have the modern castle nut until the 1990s. Also, you would have the forward assist on this 609 and the windage adjustable, essentially an A1 style upper receiver, the flat pad ejection port door cover there, and then this would obviously have the Commando style lower receiver. This would have the raised area for the front pivot pin, or to capture the detent and spring for the front pivot pin. This would not yet have the full fence like the XM177E2, which was the next model developed or improved after this model. This would have of course, the Fiberlight style pistol grip. Most would use a 20 round magazine. However, originally they were ordered with 30 round magazines, but those were yet undeveloped and had kind of some growing pains here. So when they would order these for the military, or rather the Army, they would ship with 20 round mags originally. And going in a little bit further here, this would have the flat style slip ring. The Delta ring would be on the E2 version. Also, this would have the 6-hole style round handguards, clamshell if you will, and up and bottom. And then there would be no bayonet lug on this 609 carbine because you could not mount a bayonet with this style of muzzle device. And you would have, of course, it would be iron sights, generally speaking, and the elevation would be adjustable on the front sight post. It would be a lightweight profile barrel. And then the original 609s that the military would buy from Colt would have something called a sound moderator up front. It would act as a sound moderation and also back pressure to help reliably operate the carbine's gas system, especially under a full automatic fire. Since this is just a clone, this is just a flash suppressor, and that's made by Palmetto State Armory. And I'm going to flip the carbine over now. Alright, so you go ahead, you have your normal controls here. You have safe, semi, and automatic. Of course, this being an AR-15, it is only semi-automatic. The maker of the lower is Harrington Richardson, and also this is a retro clone lower, so it's kind of period correct. It has the A1 style cuts, more of a right angle on the front pivot pin boss there, and also a cut there towards the back of the receiver. As you see, this also says Commando, which is really cool, makes it a little more authentic. And as you notice, everything matches pretty well, kind of has a weathered finish to it, kind of a dark gray. And then kind of go over the other side, maybe get a little more close-ups here. And your usual front sling swivel there. It's a very small and handy carbine. Very compact, very lightweight. And here's the stock. Out and then in. Not much to it, there's nothing in between there. I think I mentioned already, this would have a 10-inch barrel, nominally speaking. The XM177E2 would have the 11.5-inch barrel to kind of cure some of the ailments that the short barrel had. And so at this point in the video, I'm going to get a little more into the history and maybe a little bit of the background, a little more detail on the Commando itself. The Colt Commando is part of the original Colt CAR-15 program, CAR standing for Colt Automatic Rifle. The CAR-15 program was a family of AR-15 based rifles, carbines, machine guns, submachine guns, etc. that Colt was catalog marketing to military entities. Essentially an expansion, exploration of the development of the AR-15 platform beyond the 601 through 604 models to drum up sales and contracts for Colt. The CAR-15 program would see up to 7 different models. Many would never move beyond early production or prototypical stages. However, 1965, first U.S. combat troops had entered the Vietnam conflict. The U.S. Army had already made their initial order for the Colt 603 XM16E1 rifle, which would go on to become the M16A1. The Army would show significant interest in the small and compact space-age Colt Commando 609, making an initial order in early 1966 with a delivery date of November 66 for 2,815 of these carbines. So there's quite a many that were going to go into service in Vietnam. Many in special groups be used out in the field. The original Colt Commando would feature a 10-inch barrel, which I've mentioned. It would be equipped with a flash and sound moderator, which I've also touched on a little bit there. The original 609 moderator would also act as a device to boost the gas or back pressure to operate the action reliably. And remember, at this time, when they're going through developing this carbine, nothing had been done yet. There was no data. They were essentially developing things. This is the early 60s. This is a new platform, and this is a new rifle for Colt. And then making the carbine was a brand new territory. And also, of course, the 10-inch barrel on the 609 would be a learning point. Essentially, it was too short, and they would get a lot of flash coming out of the end of the rifle, unburnt powder, basically, and they would have issues with bullet stability, action reliability, and of course, within a year, there was already going to be an evolved model, and that would be the XM177E2 with an improved 11.5-inch barrel, basically adding 1.5 inches to the end of the barrel there. And they would retain the same muzzle device as the 609. So the XM177E2 would also get a sound and moderator, essentially. And basically, the 609 would become the first mass-produced model to be equipped with an adjustable buttstock. There was a model before this, the 607, which was kind of a very prototypical carbine. That wasn't really mass-produced. Only a handful of those were made. So this was your first carbine with the modern style collapsible stock system or adjustable stock system. And that was designed by Colt's Robert Roy. The Commando stock would be made from aluminum, of course. Later stocks and later carbines would be like a polymer. They also had issues with this original 609 stock not having a proper finish, and they would see some corrosion and other issues. So that's where the vinyl acetate coating would come in on the XM177E2, and they would essentially be like a nice black coating to it. The Commando, this Commando model essentially would go on to be used in Vietnam, of course, as mentioned previously, and there are a number of photographs depicting their use in action. The 609 would be ordered with 7 30-round magazines initially. However, there would be some developmental delays and issues with the 30-round magazines from Colt. I'm going to touch on it briefly here. The main issue with the original 30-round magazines, which this is an era-correct original 30-round magazine, is that they had a kind of a constant radius to them. And Colt really hadn't designed the lower, or rather would have some interference issues with the constant curve magazine fitting in the lower receiver. So there was also developmental issues going on, reliability issues with the original 30s. So many troops in the field, if you will, would order some of these magazines from the back of like your American Rifleman magazine, and they would often be a combination magazine would fit the AR-180 or AR-18 and AR-15 both. So this is an old school magazine, probably mid-1960s production. Eventually, Colt would remedy that issue with the modern style Stainag magazine, if you will, and that would have a straight upper body to fit in the lower receiver correctly, and then would of course curve once it come out of the lower part of the gun there. And from what I hear, it would be around 1969 before they would have a mass production of the 30-round magazines that would essentially be a standardized model, and then they would be issued. Of course, that'd be until like 1970 before you would start seeing the 30-round mags in use in mass, essentially. Another first for the 609 Commando would be that it had these round handguards. These would go on to be used in the XM177E2. They would also, larger version would be used on the M16A2 later on in the early 1980s. And these type of handguards are a little more durable than the triangle handguards. They're also provide quite a bit more texture for gripping surface versus triangle, in my opinion, but I mean, it's reality. They're ribbed. You can grab onto them pretty well, stabilize the rifle. So I hope I covered most things today. This is a fun build. It's always a pleasure to make a clone and make it part of the collection anyways. And I wanted to share it with you all tonight. And I hope you enjoy the video. If you got comments or questions, please let me know. Put them in the comments. And hope you enjoyed watching the video. And maybe we all learned something, right? So thanks for tuning in. And we'll talk at you again later.